The following program is sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.
Welcome back to Building Wisconsin, Terry. Great to see you again. And wow, it's been a while since we've been back at Coloma. This new edition is awesome. Are you and your members happy with the end result?
We're happy and we're excited, Stu. We've got another training season. It's great to have you here during the peak of our training season.
Yeah, it's in the heart of winter, and I saw the parking lot was full, and when we walked through the building, classrooms were full, a lot of activity, and pretty soon all this equipment is going to head out into the 400 acres worth of working grounds.
Yeah, and everybody's going to be training in their respective areas, and everybody's going to be training for the future of our infrastructure here in the state of Wisconsin.
You know, in past shows we talked about the training center, and even before the addition, Dan was saying how it was one of the largest training centers of its kind in the nation.
We are. We're one of the largest in North America, Stu. In fact, we have a little bit of friendly competition with our friends down in the Chicago area. Every time we put an addition on, they have to knock out a wall and make theirs bigger. But it's good competition because it's all about training and education.
Yeah, and you know, I think about that. Sure, they're adding on to their building, but I'll put our workforce up against anybody's in the nation, heck, in the world for that matter. We have the best trained, hardest working operating engineers in all the building trades around.
Thanks to the instructors and everybody else here who helps at Coloma Training Center, I can tell you with a great deal of certainty, we have some of the most proficient, safest operators in North America.
Now, how many members are trained here on an annual basis?
Well, prior to our latest edition, which we built, by the way, in anticipation of growth, we were just under 8,000 students registered for learning. After the addition, last year, we had 11,000 registered
Holy
students.
cow.
It was just incredible because we just filled it up right away. And credit to our members because they see the opportunity. They see the opportunity for training, for education, and they came and they got it.
That's a real world example of the old adage, build it and they will come.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there still a big calling for operating engineers in our state? Because as I travel around, I'm still seeing quite a bit of infrastructure projects going on.
Oh, no, there really is. And you know what, Stu, right now, the apprenticeship is over 1,000 registered apprentices in the operating engineers. And a lot of these apprentices are right now dispatched to work on solar fields and renewable energy projects.
Oh boy, remember that show we did a couple of years ago in central Wisconsin, that huge solar field? That was so cool to see your members in action, and what a win-win for the state. Not only are they doing a great job learning the trade, but then we're turning to renewables. And let's face it, all of us want to get off coal. We all want to get to 100% renewables, but the technology isn't there yet, is it?
It's not quite there yet. And you're right, these solar fields are a perfect place for apprentices to come out in open spaces. They've got enough room to get the feel of pieces of heavy equipment, you know, leveling off the fields, driving the PD-10s out on the field and putting posts in the ground to hold these panels. It's just a perfect opportunity for our apprentices to learn.
Sure. Well, I know on today's show, we're going to look more into the energy sector. And I'm excited because we get to learn how power is generated. But not only that, we have some other interesting things in store, don't we?
Yes, we do. And you know what? I look forward to having you speak with some of the people that are involved. Our renewable energy right now, just in the southeastern Wisconsin, under WEX area, our renewable energy is only going to provide 3,800 megawatts of power. But by summer, that's still going to be 3,700 megawatts short of what is needed, not just for these processing centers, but for the community itself.
So it's easy to say, let's just switch to renewables, but the renewables can only do so much at this point in time. So we really need a bridge to that decarbonized future, don't we?
Yes, we do. And you know what? There's a little bit of a push against natural gas, as you're going to see later on in the show. And we're beating the drum saying this is the cleanest source of energy that we can provide besides renewable energy. And the only alternative is going to be coal.
And coal, as we all know, is pretty dirty fuel, isn't it?
It's dirty fuel. So these gas turbines are very important.
And I mean, the natural gas combustion turbines, I mean, right now, as we look at technology, it's really a stepping stone to get us to the future. It might not be the end all, do all, best fuel out there, but right now, it's a lot cleaner, as I understand it, than coal.
It's the cleanest burning fuel that we've got right now. But you know what, Stu, we have to move now, because we've got these data processing centers coming into Wisconsin, and they're attracted to the Great Lakes region because they're in the Great Lakes Basin. They need that fresh water to cool their towers, to cool their plants, so we have to provide the infrastructure. And that infrastructure has got to be these gas-powered turbines.
Sure.
Power is infrastructure, just like the roads that we built through that area, like the sewer and water that we put through there, communication that we put through there. But we're short on the energy, on the power.
Yeah, and just our infrastructure in general, we need reliable, dependable, and stable electricity.
We do.
When you think about the high quality of life we enjoy here in Wisconsin, electricity plays a huge role in that, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And you know what? Let's keep the growth going. And the more we can provide electricity, clean electricity, the more we can attract some of these data centers and other industries. I mean, we can attract housing, we can attract small businesses, and these data centers are going to provide so many jobs going into the future, not just the construction, but the people that are going to work there, make careers there, raise families through that income.
Well, I think you said it best when you said it's an integral part of our infrastructure, equally as important as other topics we've covered on this show.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Terry, I'll let you get back to educating the students here at Coloma. I'm going to head down to the Oak Creek campus to learn more about power generation.
All right, thanks for coming out, Stu.
These are operating engineers. They operate top-of-the-line, innovative machines and build stuff that matters. And operating engineers are well paid. They even get paid to train. As an apprentice, you can make $56,000 a year from day one. During training, no school loans and no debt. When your training is complete, you'll have a stable career job that is high skill, high tech, and high pay. We need operating engineers right now. Your future can begin today.
Thanks for coming on Building Wisconsin, Tim. It's great to have you here because I've always wanted to know how electricity is produced at a power plant like this, and you're going to walk us through that process. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about this huge campus that we're at here.
Sure, so we are here on the WI Energy's Oak Creek site. This is the home to the Elm Road Generating Facility, which is a supercritical coal-fired power plant, which produces about 1,268 megawatts.
Now, when we talk about 1,268 megawatts, how many homes and businesses, can you quantify, will that serve?
Sure, so when we look at individual homes, the average use for a home is about 9 megawatt hours per year. So we serve about 1 million homes.
Wow, that's a lot. So an integral part of our infrastructure, that's for sure. In the geographic area that this serves, is it fair to say it's southeast Wisconsin, or do you even look at it that way from a power plant standpoint?
We feed a system that can go as far as Manitoba, Canada, also parts of Illinois, Indiana. That grid serves essentially the upper Midwest. Since we are attached to a major city in the greater Milwaukee area, most of our megawatts are probably consumed right here in this general area, but we certainly have the ability to send it as far as Canada.
Sure. Well, talking about all these megawatts, let's get right into it and learn how electricity is produced at plants like this. Can we go inside?
Let's do it.
You know, Tim, as we go level to level, I'm just blown away by the scale of all the equipment in here. Everything is massive. And it's not limited to indoors. I mean, the coal piles were huge outside. How much coal do you burn here or consume on a daily basis?
So a normal day for us consists of about 10,000 tons per unit,
Whoa.
so 20,000 tons total. And if you look at the course of a year, of course we take the units out for outages and maintenance and things like that, but a good round number is about 3 million tons of coal a year.
3 million tons of coal a year to produce enough energy for about 1 million homes, as you said earlier. Now that coal, when I kind of glance at it, looks like kind of almost like analogized with breaker rock. It's random size. It comes in on rail cars, it looked like?
Yeah, so it comes off the rail from the mines to us. Comes in various sizes, like you mentioned, about the size of your fist. It's very fragile, so every time you touch it, it tends to break. So we transport it into the plant through conveyors. Through our conveyors, it goes into a coal silo. Each unit has 5 different silos. Each of those silos go to a coal feeder, and this feeder will feed it into a pulverizer. And what that pulverizer does is it smashes it into basically a talcum powder consistency, and then we take that and blow it into the boiler where it's combusted.
Sure, so this is one of those hoppers, the feeder, it comes down. Oh, that's cool. You can see the coal actually being dropped down into where it's pulverized, you said. So if it's like talcum powder, that's a real fine powder. Does that help in the burning process or the efficiency of it?
Yeah, certainly the smaller the coal particle, the more consistent burn you're going to get, the more complete combustion you're going to get. The old school boilers, they used to burn much larger pieces, and you would end up with pieces of unburned coal in the bottom of your boiler because it didn't burn all the way.
So this process obviously starts with a lot of coal, you pulverize it, but how do you turn coal into electricity?
Well, follow me, we'll take a look at one of our boilers.
Again, Tim, the scale here is just massive. I mean, what are we looking at down here?
So we're at the bottom of one of our boilers. We have 2 boilers, one for each unit. Each boiler is about 250 feet tall, or roughly the size of a 20-story building.
Wow.
It contains about 13,000 tons of steel, tubes and different metals wrapped around in that boiler. So what we'll do is we'll take that coal that we talked about, it'll go into our boiler to form this combustion, which operates at right around 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. We take the water, which boils inside the tubes in that boiler, which will turn it into steam, and it builds both temperature and pressure. By the time it leaves our boiler, it's about 3,700 PSI and just over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And with that steam, then we'll go to one of our turbines.
Holy cow. Again, I'm thinking about the boiler I have at my house that heats my radiant floor. It's about this big. But the more I think about it, this is just on a grand scale. You're still heating it. You're still heating water that I assume is in a closed loop that's going from water to steam and then back to water again?
Yeah, so we'll take that steam and we'll send it to a turbine, and then once it goes through the turbine, it'll condense back into water, and we'll capture that water in the condensers and actually pump it back up into the boiler. So it's basically a closed system, a little bit of line loss here and there, so we have some makeup water, but essentially a closed system.
Okay, so the purpose of these giant boilers, and this is just one of them again, is to create that steam to turn the turbines. Can we go see those?
Yeah, they're really impressive. Let's go take a look.
Down another level, and not surprising, more massive equipment. Are these the turbines you're talking about?
That's right, so behind us is our turbines and our generators. So the high pressure steam that comes out of that boiler is the motive force that turns these turbine blades. And connected to those turbine blades on the rotor is the generator, and that's where the electricity is produced through electromagnetic induction, which is just a fancy way of saying that when you have copper coils that turn through a magnetic field, you induce voltage. Now, as you can see, our generators are about the size of a small mobile home. Each generator can generate about 25,000 volts when it comes out.
Wow, 25,000 volts. That's a lot. Where does the electricity go from here?
So from here, it goes to a step-up transformer where we step it up from 25,000 volts to 345,000 volts, and then that's what's carried onto the system and spread out throughout the community.
And again, these power plants, they feed the grid, but for all practical purposes, if we're serving about 1 million homes here. That's a lot. We're using most of it, if not all of it, right here in southeast Wisconsin.
Yeah, a lot of our usage is right here in our area.
Okay, I want to get back to the closed loop system. You talked about how it starts as water, it gets converted to steam, high pressure steam, but then it's really condensed back to water, so it's just a continuous loop. But how do you cool it down quick enough to be recirculated?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different systems that we have that require a little bit of cooling as it goes on. So we actually take circulating water from Lake Michigan, pass it through the plant to cool things, and then put it back in the lake. So the circulating water intake is about 1.5 miles from the shoreline at the bottom of Lake Michigan. From there, it's transported in a pipe that sits about 200 feet below the bedrock, comes up into our plant. We use it for all our different cooling systems, and it's put right back into the lake. So it probably enters the lake roughly at around 10 to 15 degrees warmer than when we get it.
Boy, so if you're bringing it in and essentially just using it to cool the closed loop system, dumping that back in, and it's interesting you say it's about 10 degrees or so warmer. I know that's great for local fishermen. I used to fish out there in my younger years a lot, and it was always great at certain times of the year. The salmon, the trout would orient to that. And I noticed that you even have a fishing pier open to the public here.
That's right. We have a fishing pier open to the public from the middle of March to the middle of November based on the weather, and we get a lot of folks down here. We got fishermen there every day catching big salmon out of the lake, and it's just a great little attraction for the locals.
That's awesome, really community oriented. Well, Tim, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to explain to us how electrical power is generated here at this plant. Thanks a lot for coming on Building Wisconsin.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, Dan, thanks for coming on Building Wisconsin. Great to see you. And we're anxious to learn more about future plans for this Oak Creek campus. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is with the company.
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm Dan Krueger, Executive Vice President of Infrastructure and Generation Planning for WEC Energy Group. We go by WEC. WEC is the parent company of 7 utilities, 2 of which are in Wisconsin. We Energy is in Wisconsin Public Service.
Okay. Now, you know, we were just talking with Tim, plant manager of this plant. It's really cool to learn how electricity was generated. But I have to tell you, I was blown away by how much coal is being consumed on a daily basis. It was incredible how much. But that said, there are some proposals in place that'll help get us off that coal, right?
You bet, you bet. Well, this is one of the most important energy sites in all of Wisconsin. So the Oak Creek and Elm Road campus has over 2,000 megawatts of baseload dispatchable generation. Our plan is to keep making this cleaner and greener as we go forward. So right now we're looking at changes to this site, which would include a new 5-unit modern efficient natural gas plant to be added to our mix.
Boy, that's great news. And you know, it really doesn't surprise me, because when I look at WI Energies and their commitment to clean energy, this really makes sense as an investment to help complement those other renewable sources, right?
Absolutely. So our theme is affordable, reliable, and clean, right? And as we go through this, we're committed to a new generation mix. Our future is baseload generation, which is zero carbon as much as possible. So we're looking to go continuously cleaner. As we add more renewables, the key to the renewables is to have quick start, quick action dispatchable gas plants. We want to get as much energy as possible every hour from renewables, but when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, we need the power. And as you know, the electric grid is instantaneous, right? So these plants, including the new one we're going to be building, we call them linebackers. So when there's a hole in that production that's needed, they step up right away. They start quick, they fill the gap, and as soon as we don't need them, down they go.
Wow, and you know, everybody wants clean energy. So when you say zero carbon, zero emissions, I mean, that's a great end goal. But like right now, as it speaks, within Wisconsin or within the WI Energies territory, how much of the total power generated comes from renewables?
It varies by hour. So in good days, good hours, we can have days where we're hitting over 50% of our energy from renewables. Our long-term goals are measured more by carbon. So right now, we have a goal of 60% reduction in our CO2 emissions by the end of 2025 as compared to where we were in 2005. Proud to say we're on track for that. By the end of 2030, we're looking for an 80% reduction. To get there, we need an awful lot of production and cooperation by the weather from our new renewables.
Sure. Well, it's easy for everyone to say that, hey, let's just switch over to solar or wind. But what I'm hearing in your voice is that it's not that simple, is it? You need that crucial base power production. For the grid, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Our first job as a utility is to always have enough dispatchable plants so that in any moment of need, we can provide all the power that we want. We live here too, so we want the cleanest power possible. So we're building the right amounts of the renewables, the wind and the solar, but in those periods where they just can't keep up, that's when we need the clean new gas plants to step in and fill those gaps.
So is it fair to say, in your opinion, that this new natural gas plant that you're proposing, it's really a pragmatic bridge to a cleaner energy future? I mean, it makes sense with today's technology because it's much cleaner than coal, and equally important, we'll have the capability to ramp up when demand ramps up and then ramp back down when the renewables can't keep up with that high demand?
Very well said. It's drastically cleaner than coal. And the key is we have to have the power available at all times in case the weather doesn't cooperate. So when you look at a coal plant like this, it's going to run 80% of the time with a certain level of emissions. The new gas plants that we're talking about building right on this campus are going to run 10 to 20% of the time with half the rate of emissions as this plant. So if you do the math, right, these new gas plants that are the linebackers will have, let's say, 10%, 20% the emissions rate of a big coal plant like this.
Oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. So yes, there's far less carbon dioxide emission, there's far less sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, particulate matter. They make real good sense on that. But in addition, these are so much more efficient that they're running far less amount of time, right?
Absolutely. When you look at the benefits of these clean, modern new gas plants, much lower levels of emissions, there's no landfill matter, right? There is less water usage. So there's a lot of benefits to these new gas plants. But the important way to look at it is the new gas plant is going to make sure we have the capacity there when we need it. It's just going to run a lot less than a coal plant would run. So picture these new CTs, combustion turbines, CTs, like we are proposing to build here. They're massive jet engines bolted to the ground. You get on an airplane, the pilot starts and stops that engine, throttles it up and down. That's what these things are. They're ideal for filling those gaps when the renewables can't produce. And as an example, we look at the evenings in the summer. The production from our solar fields will fall off much more quickly than our load will. evening comes, people get home from work, they turn on their microwaves, they open the refrigerator, they turn on the TV, they lower the thermostat. We need more power right as power is coming off from the solar fields. That's when these new gas plants will kick on just to fill those gaps. They'll come right back off when the wind kicks in or the sun wakes up in the morning.
And that's why we have the trained professionals like Tim we had on. They're in the master control room, and they're making sure when those demands fluctuate, they can provide the power that we all depend on, and quite frankly, we all expect. I mean, when do we think about power? Is when it goes out. Doesn't happen very often, but it's a big inconvenience when it does. And if we didn't have that dependable base power that you're talking about, what could be the ramifications?
Reliability. So we need these dispatchable plants to maintain reliability. You would see flickers in your lights, you'd see electricity voltage issues, you would see us potentially having to have cutbacks in electric service. So we want to deploy the renewables. We've committed many billions of dollars to efficient renewables without fuel costs, lower operating costs, etc. We're very positive about them as part of our all-the-above strategy. We need these gas plants to maintain reliability, and we're very proud of that as our first mission as your utility.
And look into the future, are there promising new technologies that could make even a state-of-the-art natural gas plant run cleaner and more efficient down the road?
Absolutely. So we're not at the end of history in terms of power generation engineering. We monitor all types of generation for improvements in efficiency, run times, reductions in cost, or new innovations we never thought of. So we're on that every day.
Well, it sounds like the name of the game is clean, efficient, and reliable energy for our communities. And that's what natural gas provides us, that bridge to ultimately help us get to net zero.
Perfectly said. It is the bridge.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your vision for the future.
Thanks for all your support.
For more information on Building Wisconsin, follow us on Facebook and be sure to watch additional episodes on YouTube or at our website, buildingwisconsintv.com. The preceding program was sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.